I don't know what that does to establish trust. The sun was blasting here in Nova Scotia on Canada Day, gang. Sunburnt. Who is Mark Carney winking at all the time anyways?
But we're going to see if we can get to the bottom of it.
Really a lot done. In fact, UK, we signed a big trade deal today, and we're working on others. But
What?
It kind of leaves us all on the outside. You never know what kind of trick or screwball or surprise Carney's gonna throw at Canadians next. He just let the European Union know he wants to sign Canadians up, and they think we're already all in. He didn't campaign on it, not part of his platform.
So right at the point where both of our jurisdictions need to increase to combat defense threats, we pool our resources, or we can pool much of our resources. We'll be more than the sum of the parts. And as we build up those resources, we can do those in a way that's complementary and mutually reinforcing. We can pay for this is the fact that what we will do should be more efficient for both of us, should be more cost effective for both of us.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. How is he really going to pay? He's going to borrow more money, causing greater inflation in Canada. This guy didn't campaign on signing us up with the European Union and all of these costs to meet NATO. 5% of GDP? Come on.
And let's take the 5% of GDP figure, which is a big,
Huge chunk.
big number.
How much is it actually for you?
5% of our GDP would be about $150 billion.
I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot of numbers.
Per year?
Per year.
That's a lot.
Of course, it
so
is
it
a
means
lot.
that that's stuff that you can't give to your own citizens.
Well, okay, but
Social,
here, let's start to break it down.
You know.
Okay, so $150 billion a year. Where's that money going to come from? He's going to have to borrow it, yeah? How's that going to work out for inflation? And also, during this Mr. Elbows Up campaign, where were mentions of signing us up for the European Union, the New World Order? He says it right here. He's a madman.
So we're meeting now in that context in, as you just said, in hard times. We might say even a hinge moment of history. We can nostalgically look back and long for the old order to somehow return, or we can build a new one with purpose and partnership. And so today this is a new era of cooperation. Our strategic Canada-EU or EU-Canada strategic partnership for the future will build a new and deeper relationship that brings us closer together from defense to digital, from supply chains to security. And this will make us both more resilient and more prosperous.
Yeah, more resilient, more prosperous.
Yeah, right. More resilient and prosperous. In Canada, we have housing issues, immigration issues, inflation issues. We're not out floating around the international world donating a whole bunch of money that we don't have. Mark Carney, come on, reel it in, bud.
Yes.
You spend most of your time life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. Possibly not a bad suggestion. You do work for the CBC. However, Mark Carney, look inside yourself, man. Elbows up. You get so upset when people are asking questions Canadians want the answers to, which you still haven't provided. And since then, still no budget. We'll take a peek at that.
The majority of this chamber voted last night for a spring budget. Fact. On what date would the Liberals face the facts and table a budget for their $500 billion in new spending?
Mr. Speaker, the First Ministers agreed on a plan to build this great country. Stand up to Donald Trump. Fact. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Canada is imposing tariffs that cause maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada. Fact. On over $60 billion of U.S. exports to Canada. Fact. Raised over $1.7 billion already. Fact.
Will the Prime Minister respect the will of Parliament and table a budget immediately so Canadians in this Parliament can have the transparency we deserve?
Mr. Speaker, we take note of last night's motion. But what Canadians deserve what Canadians deserve, what Canadian provinces deserve, is a health care transfer. Is a transfer for child care. Is a transfer for dental care. Is a transfer to support affordability. Yep. That's what's in the main estimates, and we expect the support of members opposite.
Mr. Speaker, I realize he's new here, but all those things would be in a budget if you'd table one. Mr. Speaker, this year alone, this government is going to spend a staggering $26 billion on high-priced, liberal-friendly consultants, an eye-watering $1,400 for every Canadian family. They'll present no budget, no departmental plans, and zero transparency. They won't even stand in this House and tell Canadians what the deficit will be this year.
We will have a much more comprehensive, effective, ambitious, prudent budget in the fall. You do these things right, and that's what we're going to do.
What? We understand that you have now placed your assets in a blind trust, so you don't know what's happening to them going forward, but you knew what they were going into that blind trust. So what are they?
Look, Stephanie, I follow the rules of the Ethics Commissioner. I'm following them well in advance of any of the requirements, as you know, because I know you know this. You know that these requirements come into effect in months. We're talking days after I became Prime Minister. So I'm complying with the rules of the Ethics Commissioner, going through the processes and all these things that are necessary. And I will remind you, and I'll remind Canadians again, that the Leader of the Opposition cannot find it. And look, you look at the questions this evening, you look at the nature of the discussions, look at the nature of discussions I had.
Since we're reminding Canadians of things, I'll point a couple of things out. That video, that clip, that's from 4 months ago, and he still hasn't declared his assets, declared any conflicts of interest, nothing like that. Also, he didn't give us a budget, and he's promised hundreds of billions of dollars to other countries, to NATO, to other things, and he can't explain where it's going to come from. Nor is there a budget, nor do we know his conflicts of interest. Brookfield. Wonder if that's a conflict.
Oh, yeah. Mark Carney, like all Liberals, is a high-tax hypocrite, making you pay more while he dodges his bill.
The Conservatives have criticized Carney for using offshore tax havens during his time as chair of Brookfield Asset Management. CTV News previously reported Brookfield registered several of its entities in Bermuda, a country that has no corporate income tax. Asked today whether a Liberal government would condemn the use of tax havens, Carney had this to say.
What's important is that we have a effective tax system, and that companies, every company, follows the rules of those tax to not just the letter but the spirit of those regulations.
Carney has maintained he always followed the rules. Now Poilievre's Conservatives are pitching changing them.
We will target tax havens, expose offshore fortunes, and bring the money home. All of this with the goal of reducing the tax burden on the people in this country.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to finish up with Pierre right there. He has his election coming up on August 18th in Battle River Crowfoot. Should be a pretty easy victory. Who knows what kind of tricks and tactics these Liberals are going to try. What are we going to do about this skid-marked chicken con carne we have for Prime Minister? He's coming off looking so weak against Trump, man. It's pathetic. Saying he's a good negotiator, rescinding taxes. What, that's good negotiating?
Will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
His body language, everything is bad. And also the outcomes of everything. He's losing every single battle. Everywhere he goes, he looks bad in the press. And not that the press is making him look bad. They don't show it when he looks really terrible. They'll hide the clips. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. We're making videos like this about Canadian federal politics, trying to inform myself and share with others what I'm learning. That's it. Thanks a lot for watching, gang. We'll catch you in the next video. Smash that subscribe. Join us for another video, another time. We're out. I don't know what that does to establish trust.